So I really wanted to do this video because I think this kind of encapsulates the three big lessons I've had in 2025. So you might have seen on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago, I went back to my childhood school, my secondary school. They invited me to be their guest speaker at their awards evening. So I did, I went there. I got myself on a little train, travelled up to my school and was there. But then this is what happened. I got there and I sat at the front row where the guest speakers and the other, guests were sat. And the head teacher ignored me. So initially she kind of looks at me and my mum who sat there. You know when people look at you and they think, oh, you're in the wrong place and they're about to say something. But she kind of thinks better of it and moves on to the next dignitary and greets them. And at the end of the row, the other teacher and the organiser was like, you're meant to say hello, that's your guest speaker. And she kind of comes over, she's bumbling, awkward, kind of apologises. Well, not apologises, but kind of like says hello and says, mistake or something like that. Fine, okay, one strike, okay, these things happen. Then they say, let's give you a tour of the school, let's show you what we've done. So they give me a tour, they've got all these inclusive spaces, they're so proud to show it off. And they say to me, we've got a wall to ceiling kind of part in the hallway where we have these massive blown up pictures of our, leavers who've gone on to do incredible things, and we've got you blown up there and we want to show you. So they take me to this wall. We get there, and it isn't me. It's the other black girl in my year. I know, she's amazing, by the way, but it wasn't me. I'm taken aback by this, and she's like, makes an excuse, like, you know how you go blind to something because you're looking at it every day in the hallway. I guess I just didn't realise. I thought it was you. It's like, okay, fine. I take it on the chin, and then we head back to the hall where I'm going to be speaking, and then another teacher comes over, bumbling over, runs over, basically very excited, saying, you're Solomon's sister. I was like, no, I'm not. I have no brother. I have two sisters, though. I'm not Solomon's sister. I think you've got me mixed up with someone else. But she doesn't drop it. She goes on and on about how I'm Solomon's sister. So effervescently that another teacher has to come in and intervene, and says, well, no, I think you've got it wrong. I think she would know who she was. And then that teacher's like, oh, you know what people are like. They get things mixed up. Another kind of like blasé excuse. And then finally, I see the teacher who used to bully me at school. Because, teachers can be bullies too. And they're like, oh, so why are you here? Like, what is it that you've done that you're here to talk to us about? I remember they asked me to be their guest. At this point, I'm regretting my choice to do a 2.5-hour train journey and make all this effort to come, because I wasn't feeling very well at the time anyway. But I was like, okay, let me sit down, let me run through my speech, and let me just try and do my best. I go up and I give a really good speech, but I won't deny it's very hard, it's very emotional. So it was like, wow, this is the school I was bullied at, I've come back 15 years later, and this is the experience. And this experience taught me 3 things I'm going to take as the lessons of 2025. 1, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to know that something's unacceptable. That's what anger's telling you, a boundary's being breached, a standard's not being met. I think we're so used to not being angry with some of those experiences, emotions that people think is bad. And it's one that I get scared of having because, people might think I'm an angry black woman and there are all these negative tropes in media, and I just didn't want to fall prey to them. So I was like, well, I can't be angry. And 2, you don't have to rationalise everything. I was sat there rationalising, well, it's easy to mistake to make, or I guess maybe with 2 black girls in the same year, we look the same, we don't look the same. Rationalising, giving excuses for other people's poor behaviour. You don't have to do that. In fact, I do that so often that sometimes I find myself self-monitoring when I have a thought saying something isn't unacceptable. I start monitoring it and rationalising why the other person's cruel behaviour, illegal behaviour, etc. is acceptable in some way. You don't need to do that. And 3, you don't have to pretend it's okay or it was a positive experience. You'll see on my Instagram this positive post I put in together about the experience because 1, I didn't want to be seen as negative, because one of the things I've learned through life is the person who complains and says something's wrong often is looked at like they're difficult. They're a difficult person to work with, or they're the common denominator in this experience, rather than realising that that was an unacceptable experience and they were just simply saying it was, and they were speaking the truth. And often society uses that. Often people have been victim of any society incident, whatever, and have spoken up about it. They often feel the consequence of that. They get told off for that, and therefore people stop being truthful. But obviously this has its own detriment to yourself. You start feeling that you're almost accepting that. You're telling your inner child, your own person, that you're worth that behaviour by not speaking up for yourself and not being true to yourself. So I guess if there's one thing I'm leaving 2025 with is I'm allowed to be angry. I will not rationalize bad behaviour anymore. And I'm allowed to tell the truth. It's a negative experience. It's a negative experience. I don't have to pretend and I don't have to pander for fear that the consequences are great, because the consequences to my well-being, my emotional health, my physical health as a result of internalising all these experiences can be so significant that actually, I guess the truth is the most important thing. So thanks for sharing my 2025 reflections. That's the thing I'm taking into 2025, learning from this very, very, very challenging year.